The Carolina Panthers used everything to get Bryce Young. And, well, he's bad. Like, really bad. And it's going to be a very, very long year for the Carolina Panthers. Like, we knew Bryce Young and the Panthers were bad, but it's going to be way worse than what we could have even imagined. Like, I mean, look, he just truly put together a disastrous week 1 performance yesterday. And despite it being his second year in the league, I mean, as we look at the other guys from that class and their week 1 performances, Bryce Young by far and away was just bad on a completely different level. Like, when looking at all of the week 1 performers from that class, and Will Levis, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young himself, he far and away was the worst one. Like, it was so bad that Bryce Young had almost as many completed passes as the Saints had scoring drives in yesterday's game. And like, I mean, if he completely doesn't have a 180 this year, he is going to definitely be out the door by the end of this season. I mean, it was so bad yesterday that his first pass of the season was an interception. And it wasn't like it was a close one too. It was pretty bad. It was a complete overthrow, and even in the post-game press conference, all he kept saying was, yeah, it's on me. Like, listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, just you know, again, just getting the right people to the right places, and systematically just doing a better job with the operation. And again, that starts with me. Again, that's definitely on me. Have to do a better job of that. You know, hurts the team or situation, hurts our defense.
And I mean, even after the first drive, where it did end in an interception, it didn't get much better from there. They managed to get a first down on the following drive, but then would go 3 and out after that. And the throw he made on 3rd and 6 was a complete overthrow, and looks like he just doesn't look confident stepping into that throw and making it. Like, yes, it is a tight window, but that's a throw he should be able to make in his second year, especially on a crucial 3rd and 4th downs when they do need him. But then he proceeded to throw a second interception later in the game. And honestly, this one may have been just as bad, if not worse, than the first one. I mean, again, it's just a bad overthrow to Adam Thielen, and is picked off by the Saints safety, Jordan Howden. And I mean, again, he's got him open and needs to put these on his wide receivers, or I mean, at least near them, to make a play on the ball, and Young just completely airmails it. I mean, from start to finish, it was just not a great game from Bryce Young. He finished with a stat line of 13 of 30 for 161 yards, 2 interceptions, and an abysmal passer rating of 32.8. And look, I mean, coming into the season, a lot of people were saying that he was going to be able to turn it around. I mean, they went out and got Deontay Johnson to help with their terrible wide receiver room, as well as drafting Xavier Legette. But honestly, in this game, those two guys hardly even made an impact themselves. Legette caught 4 catches for 35 yards, and Johnson had 19 yards on 2 catches. I mean, that's just not what you want from the 2 guys you brought in to help your quarterback out. And look, I am a Saints fan. I will come out and say that. But I mean, even after the game got completely out of hand in the 3rd quarter, I kind of just tuned it out because of how bad that game ended up looking. And look, I truly do think that this was a big game for Bryce Young, not only for his confidence to try and build on what he didn't have last year, but also because of all the moves they tried to do this offseason to help build his confidence and make him a better player this year and build the team around Bryce Young. Like, I mean, straight up, he was making plays that you don't want to see any quarterback making, a backup quarterback, a Pop Warner quarterback, let alone any quarterback in the NFL you don't want to see making these type of throws. And these are things that he's going to have to fix, and he's going to have to fix them pretty quickly if he doesn't want the Panthers to go out and draft a quarterback in April. I mean, to be frank with you guys, I don't think Bryce Young is a good quarterback. I really never thought he was a good quarterback from the get-go. He was always too small for me, and I just really thought that despite him being super smart, I just didn't think that his athletic ability wouldn't translate to the NFL like everybody thought it would. And personally, I kind of just thought he was carried by those stacked Alabama teams when he was in college. And look, I know before you jump in the comment section, I know this guy has literally no weapons besides Deontay Johnson, if you want to count him even as a weapon. Like, I mean, truly, when we do look at this roster from top to bottom, there literally is no talent on this Panthers roster. And like, I mean, even if you do want to count the talent they do have in Xavier Legette and the other raw prospects they drafted this year, they're all just so young that we really don't know what to expect out of those guys this year. Like, they're all just so raw that it almost seems like they're setting Bryce up just to fail, as much as it hurts me to say that. And that's what makes it so painful too, is because the Panthers, they literally gave up everything to go and draft this guy #1 overall. Like, literally everything. They thought he was going to be CJ Stroud, and well, he wasn't. He was the exact opposite of what CJ Stroud was. Instead, the Panthers were the worst team in the league again, and had to watch CJ Stroud completely turn around the Texans into contenders, and the Bears completely turn around their franchise as well with the picks given to them from the Panthers. Like, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, the Panthers literally helped two franchises completely turn around their teams because of a bad pick and a horrible trade. Like, I mean, coming into this offseason, they had pretty much just like scraps to try and put a roster together. Like, they had nothing. And then to make matters even worse in the offseason, they then traded away Brian Burns to the Giants, receiving a 2024 second round draft choice and a 2025 fifth round selection, and agreeing to a swap of fifth rounders this year. And I mean, in the moment and even now, it seems so insane because now not only did they not get a first rounder from the Giants for Burns, but they had now no elite pass rusher on the defensive side of the ball and really no playmakers on that side of the ball besides an aging JC Horn. I mean, during the draft, they did make a desperation move, trading up to go and get wide receiver Xavier Legette out of South Carolina after trading up one spot in the NFL draft to number 32. But I mean, even then, the 6'1", 221-pounder Legette possesses good size and speed and is coming in off of a highly productive season with 71 catches and 1,200 yards at South Carolina. But I mean, before that season, he had no more than 18 receptions in his 4 years at South Carolina prior to emerging last year. And again, I mean, really, he's just so raw and even showed that in the game versus the Saints with only 4 catches and 35 yards. Again, it's just not something you expect out of a guy that you want to help elevate your quarterback. And now I think the other big thing that we have to talk about is just how much Bryce Young gets sacked in games and just in a season. Last year in his rookie season, he was sacked 62 times, which somehow was only in second place to Sam Howell, who had 3 more sacks ahead of him. And even then, those 62 sacks that he did take was 14 more than the next closest person, and let alone yesterday was sacked 4 times versus the Saints. I mean, if he's going to keep taking these hits and just kind of getting sacked all season long, he's just too undersized to be taking those type of hits and won't be lasting very long in the NFL, regardless of how good he is, because of how many hits he's going to be taking from 250-pound guys landing on top of him from every sack he takes. I mean, again, they even tried to revamp the offensive line, signing Robert Hunt to a 5-year, $100 million contract, and Damian Lewis receiving a 4-year, $53 million deal that included $27 million guaranteed over the first 2 years to try and help bolster this line, but clearly it just didn't make a difference. And not only did they bolster the offensive line, but they also brought in a new head coach in Dave Canales. Canales had been thought of as a quarterback whisperer. I mean, he helped Geno Smith revive his career in Seattle before moving to the Bucs in 2023 and completely reviving Baker Mayfield's career. I mean, when he worked with both of those quarterbacks, they both passed for over 4,000 yards when he was calling the plays as the coordinator, helping Geno Smith win Comeback Player of the Year in 2022, and Baker Mayfield landing a huge contract because of him, and even seeing how it carried over to Baker Mayfield over the weekend, just how good he still is playing. And after seeing those 2 revivals of careers, now many people are hoping that he can do the same thing with Bryce Young, especially with Bryce Young just being so raw and so young that he kind of can mold him into a better quarterback than what he was last year. I mean, but at the end of the day, it's just so tough to try and put that much weight on the head coach to try and change so much about a player that's been playing football literally his whole life. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to just be able to ball. Like, yes, you still can coach certain things like reading coverages and everything, but at the end of the day, once you get onto the field, you just need to be able to ball and play football. And again, you can't teach size. It's clear Bryce Young is undersized. I mean, he's going to have to try and bulk up some way somehow, but he's still going to be 5'11". It's still going to be very tough for him to be a quarterback in the NFL, I believe. I mean, personally for me, I truly do think Bryce Young has this year and maybe next year too to try and survive in the league. But again, if he just completely falls off a cliff this year, they are not going to keep him around, possibly even this year. They may move on from him in April. I mean, as we're looking at mock drafts for April at this point in the season, which is insane already, most of them do have the Panthers with the number 1 overall pick, and they're either taking Travis Hunter or whoever the best wide receiver is, and they're going to try and get Bryce, if they do stick with him, as many playmakers as possible. But again, if it's terrible, like if it's really, really bad, they may go get Ewers, Beck, Shador Sanders, or even the Tennessee kid if he is that bad this year. Like, I mean, look, I think at this point right now, the Panthers are honestly just trying to stay afloat and just survive this season. They have no primetime games. Nobody really wants to watch the Panthers. I mean, again, I only watch them because they're playing the Saints. I'm going to have to watch them again later in the season when they play the Saints again in Carolina. And again, the Panthers are just so hard to watch, especially with how bad they are. There's no really recognizable names on that roster besides an aging Adam Thielen. But outside of that, again, there's really nobody on that roster that's going to make people want to watch them. And I think once the draft finally does come around in April, it's going to be a big talking point of what the Panthers are going to do with that pick. If they do have a top 5 pick, if they're going to take a skill position to try and help Bryce Young out, or if they're just going to completely give up on the kid, make him a backup and move on to a new quarterback in Ewers, Beck, or Shedeur Sanders. I mean, even when we look at the picks that they have for the following year in this draft, right now they have 5 of their own picks and 3 picks from other teams. So they definitely have draft capital for the future, but I don't know how they're truly going to use it yet. I don't really think anybody knows how they're going to use it. Looking at their cap space too going into 2025, they're going to have about $42 million in cap space. So maybe they can go out and get some good guys on some good deals, but even then they'll have to compete with teams like the Commanders and Patriots, who are going to have huge amounts of cap and their quarterbacks on rookie deals, and honestly are a little bit more attractive places to go rather than the Carolina Panthers. I mean, all in all though, my full expectations for the Panthers are that they are going to finish in last place in the NFC South. And I know I said that I want the Saints to be the worst team in the division, but after seeing yesterday's game, I think it's just fair to say that the Panthers are far and away the worst team in the NFL. This Panther team might be one of the worst teams in the NFL that we have ever seen, honestly. Like, I fully expect the Panthers to lose every game this year right now. I have zero expectations of them even coming close to winning a game this year. That's just how bad I truly think this team is. Like, unless Bryce Young completely just has a 180 and a complete quarterback renaissance this year because of their head coach or just because of him being an athlete, I fully expect them to just be trash. Like, between them and the Giants, it's going to be tough to watch those two teams. Again, it's tougher to watch this team because the Panthers have nobody on this roster. They don't have a good rookie to look out for. They don't have a good veteran to look out for. They literally have diddly squat on this roster. At least the Giants, they're going to be pretty bad this year. The Giants and Panthers are probably going to both be competing for the number 1 overall pick, but I think the Panthers are just going to win it outright because of how much worse they are than the Giants. And again, at least the Giants have Malik Neighbors and a couple names on defense that you can go and watch. I mean, Daniel Jones, a lot of people hate him, as we all saw yesterday, but I mean, they also have Malik Neighbors, so it is a salvageable situation. Again, I think these two teams actually do play this year in a game that's out of the country, so I don't know why they would put these two teams as the international game, just to torture those people in the other countries, I guess. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Bryce Young this year. I truly do think that he may be on the chopping block if he does not turn it around this year. But I want to know what you guys think. How bad is Bryce Young, or do you think that he can turn it around? I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section. If you are a Panthers fan, let me know, what do you think the Panthers should do next? Should they stick it out with Bryce Young, or should they just completely give up on him after this year and go get a quarterback like Ewers, Sanders, or the Tennessee kid who is apparently supposed to be like the next best thing? And as always, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video with the Panthers fan. Share the video with just anybody that loves football. Again, I want as many takes as possible. If you did not, make sure that you join my Discord so we can all talk about it inside of there. We're going to be doing fantasy pools and everything inside of there as well. Watch parties every single Sunday, I think, for the rest of the season now that I'm back in town. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.